We had Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, playing Mario Kart on our stage with a bunch of kids.
That's
And
epic.
not only is he the sweetest dude, he's doing all the voices while he's playing Mario Kart with the kids. Um,
What's going on, everybody? It is your boy, Nick Moses 05 with Nick Moses 05 Gaming Podcast. And this gentleman here, I got an introduction for you. Okay. I specifically got this one now. So, starting his journey as a corps member for Teachers of America or Teach for America? Teach for America. Okay. All right. Then as a first grade teacher at Harlem Prep Charter School. Okay. Further refined his skills as a gifted and talented teacher at Fort Worth ISD. I told you, I'm gonna give you the full rundown. You're getting the best introduction today. All right. Rich experience in traditional education at his roles at Pop Culture Classroom, including education program manager and classroom programming coordinator, shaped visions for innovative pop culture based learning. Please join me in welcoming our educational innovator, Matt Slayter.
from humble beginnings, and now I get an introduction like that. Thank you.
I know, man. I know. I had to do it, man. So, Matt, how are you doing today?
I am tired, to be very honest, but I'm doing well. It is a mix of that excitement, but also like we're doing a lot to get ready for this show. There's a lot I still need to do. So like ready to be done with the planning, get to Friday and execute. I'm super excited.
Yeah, that is always the best part, right? It's always the leading into it, getting things ready, trucking everything in there, setting everything up, and but once it gets going, you're right. It's a good thing.
But I can see it coming together, and that's the cool. Over the last few days, it's been like, oh, there's this piece. Oh, there's this piece.
Nice.
We're ready to go. I'm excited.
Nice. So these questions, same thing. I tried to, get some interesting questions so people can know more about you in pop culture classroom. All right.
All right.
So, first question, could you give us a brief description of what Pop Culture Classroom is?
Okay, yeah. So I'll give you the full mission statement and I'll boil it down. So the mission statement is to inspire a love of learning, increase literacy, celebrate diversity, and build community through the tools of popular culture and the power of self-expression. All those words mean that we use things like board games, video games, anime, film and TV, cosplay in educational settings, and we try to mine the things that kids, teens, everyone, the pop culture that everyone already loves, we are mining it for the educational juice. And we are then using that in educational settings and outside of. So it might be, we do that in 3 different ways, really. So we do events like Fan Expo coming up this weekend, where we will have a 9,000 square foot kids lab with not only our own activities that we're running, we're creating fantasy maps. We have created an entire role-playing / escape room experience. It's like 3 5-minute mini escape rooms in a row, but you're going to be learning things. We're learning all about biomes and plants and animals in different areas throughout all of the kids lab. But we've also got all these partners coming in. We've got places here in Denver like the Downtown Aquarium, History Colorado, the Butterfly Pavilion, Level 7 Games. They're all coming in and helping us out in the kids lab and providing some awesome educational pop culture themed experiences for the kids. So we do these events, and every now and then we do other pop-up events. So that's one kind of pillar that we do. We also do local workshops at schools, libraries, and community centers. So those might be workshops like how to create comics, how to create board games, world building for sci-fi and fantasy, anything kind of within that realm, cosplay workshops. So we do that out in the field. We've got tons of summer camps going on right now at different community partners, after school programs, all kinds of things. And then the third pillar that we have is free resources for folks, so especially educators. So we put out a comic series all about people, places, and events in U.S. history that is all ready to go for teachers. It's got lesson plans, discussion questions, and things like that. We create graphic novel teaching guides so that teachers can have lesson plans ready to go to teach a popular graphic novel. And all of this, the workshops are not free, unfortunately. We do have to pay for that. We got to pay our teachers. But all of the downloadable resources on our website are completely free. So really, we are just trying to, like I said, mine pop culture for goodness and inspire kids to have better literacy skills, to be creators instead of just consumers, think creatively, think critically, think analytically, and be better citizens in the world.
Agreed. Well said. Now, what led you to join Pop Culture Classroom? And also on top of that, like a double question, what is kind of the vision that you have as well? Because you joined, and then as you joined, maybe started in, but how did you join? And then once you joined, what became the vision?
Nick, this is a much bigger question than I think you think it is. So first of all, I'll give you the easy part, which is how I joined, and the very real, y'all, this is fate at its finest. Okay, so
I love it.
I was a teacher for 6 years, right? My husband and I, we were moving to Colorado. We were quitting our teaching careers. 6 years, put in my time, and was ready to do something else. To be honest, I was disillusioned with education. I was ready to be done with education. I was I was driving around Denver looking for like a video game store to work at, which there are plenty of great ones. And I drive through this warehouse district and I see a sign on the side of a building that says Pop Culture Classroom. And I pull over and I Google it, and I walk in and I ask for a job. And at that time, there were only about 13 people. Right now, we only have 6 full-time employees. So there were actually more at that time. 3 in the education department, and they had just closed the application for the classroom programming coordinator, the person who coordinates all the outreach at schools and libraries and things. Nice. And the person that I spoke to when I walked in was like, if you can give me your application, we'll consider you. And so that's how I got in there. Wow. And it's perfect. It is the perfect job for me. It is the melding of my passions. I'm an educator. So, right, my expertise are pop culture based education, sex education, and beer. Those are my 2 side hustles. But pop culture and education, these are my favorite things. And so getting to put those 2 things together, I had done things like use comics in my gifted and talented classes back in Texas, and used pop culture in different ways, and saw how that activated kids and made them light up. And so being able to apply that, in a professional setting for my actual job, getting to work with all kinds of cool pop culture creators and publishers and everything, it's a dream. And so the part of the question that I think is the bigger part is, what is the vision? Since I joined in 2018, it has been an absolute roller coaster. So we actually used to run Denver Comic-Con and Denver Pop Culture Con. So that was the precursor to Fan Expo Denver, right? And at that time, all of the proceeds for the convention were actually funding the educational stuff, right?
Beautiful.
COVID happens. We can no longer afford to run the convention, right? So Fan Expo comes in, they strike a deal with us. So now we are their featured charity, which is a way that the convention still funds all the educational stuff. But now we have refocused, we have restructured, and that focus is now able to go completely on our educational work, rather than also having to run an entire convention on top of that.
You're right.
So the vision is be the experts when it comes to pop culture in education, be the thought leaders. And in some ways we are already getting there. The vision is to make teachers' jobs easier. Every teacher wants to use pop culture in their classroom because they know it activates the kids, but good Lord, some of them don't have the time to create those lessons from scratch, or they don't love the same kind of pop culture that their students do, which is fine. So we're out here making the resources for them that makes it easy to incorporate that. One of the things we do at the convention is we have a full day of professional development, completely free for teachers. Any teacher in Colorado can come in, get professional development credit. They get to come to the show early, a free ticket to the show. And for that whole day, we are running panels on how to use pop culture in their classroom.
That's
and so like I remember I've been in the classroom and like having to create these lesson plans at different, institutions where sometimes they're very strict about it, and sometimes I get to do whatever the hell I want, right? But now I'm in a position to help teachers out to say, here's the curriculum, here it is ready to go. Here's the standards alignment, so that when your administrator says, why are you using comics? Why are you using video games in your classroom? You can say, well, I'm teaching all these standards. So, doing my job.
I agree. And, I will say, to kind of, unpack some of that, you're right with pop culture. And I think the teachers do, like I know when I was in school, I know anything that was hip hop, video games, or certain things, I made sure to be present, on time, alert. You're excited. It is a difference versus, something that you feel like you may have heard again, or, maybe your older brother had it the year before. Now you kind of seen the same notes and you're like, So the next question, this falls perfectly for the next question. How have you seen pop culture impact the way that students learn? How have you seen?
There's so many different ways, and I think it's going to be different for every student. So, for some kids, it could be as basic as learning how to read. That's what it was for me and for many, many others out there, whether that's learning to read through comics or learning to read through video games. I get a lot of parents that come talk to me. They're like, oh, yeah, I want to let my kid play video games, but their reading scores are low. So I feel like I need to limit their time or whatever, right? Asking advice on that. And the thing is, if you're giving them the right games that can do all that, give them a game that isn't voiced. So something like Pokemon or Zelda, right? Where in order to be successful, you have to be able to read, right? Yep. Which is different than handing a kid a book. Right? Because what is the incentive for reading the book? If you read 10, you get a pizza. I'll take you for ice cream later, something like that. If for those kids that don't just find the natural joy in that, if they struggle, then their incentive to grapple and struggle through is less, right? It's True. A lot of times not intrinsic, whereas with video games, it is intrinsic. I need to struggle through this text so that I understand what I need to do, right? To be successful, to win.
I agree.
With comics, it is giving struggling readers a scaffold to be able to say like, okay, I don't understand. I don't know what this word is, but I can go to the pictures to help me figure out that word. I have all the context of the characters of facial emotions, facial expressions to understand what is happening here. Right. But for a lot of kids too, it can build engagement in other academic things. Right. So for example, let's say that a teacher is teaching a unit on Abraham Lincoln, right? Or the Civil War or something, right?
Yep.
So you could do that. And then at the end of that unit, you could have them write an essay. You could have them do a multiple choice question. You can do whatever, right? But if at the beginning of that unit, before you start teaching, you say, hey, I want you to show me what you've learned by making a comic. So throughout what we're learning, I want you to be paying close attention to what you can include in your comic, right? Or I'm going to have you create a pitch for a video game. You're going to create a design Bible for a video game that will teach me everything that you learned about the Civil War, right? Maybe that's not the best outlet for the Civil War, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Totally get it.
So for those kids that happen to be engaged in art or in comics or something like that, they are automatically going to be perked up and listening and paying more attention because they're excited to make that comic. They're excited to make that game pitch or whatever, right? And so it's going to be different strokes for different kids. We even have a thing where we're teaching the history of the city of Aurora using Dungeons and Dragons. One of our instructors wrote a custom D&D campaign that the Aurora History Museum is using in after-school clubs to teach the history of the city. So there are so many different ways that it can improve learning and literacy. It's really about discovering what the kids' interest is, right? What are their natural interests and inclinations, and then going from there, right? And knowing a few jumping off places to go. And sometimes that's where we come in, as we can give you those jumping off places, right?
Yeah, no, totally agree, man. You can't, man. I don't even know if I should ask, but you maybe just killed it right there. But you're doing too good. All right, so I got this. But this one is a one I like to ask. So, can you tell us about some of these successful? You mentioned some of the programs for Pop Culture Classroom, maybe that, and you mentioned some of them, but what I mentioned Escape Room, you said, and I know there was some other, but what specific like programs that you say are some of your favorite programs that seem to help out a lot of people?
My favorite one that we run is definitely our Colorful History program. So Colorful History is almost monthly, I think we do about 10 a year comic series that is about people, places, events in U.S. history. And the topics range anywhere from how Dungeons and Dragons was made, how the first video game cartridge was invented, how anime came to the United States, to things like the Boston Tea Party, Ruth Bader Ginsburg and the Supreme Court, the history of the U.S. Railroad, right? So we are really doing a mixture of, from issue to issue, a mixture of some pop culture things, right? Accessing kids' interests, highlighting minority and underserved communities, and making sure we have a diverse range of voices. So like this past month, just a couple days ago, we released a comic. Last week, we released a comic about Two-Spirit people. Two-Spirit people being the umbrella for queer LGBTQ indigenous folk, right? And we had it written and drawn by indigenous creators, by Two-Spirit creators. And so every issue, again, comes with, so my role is to manage the series, and I edit all the scripts. So I kind of think of like what all the issues are going to be, and then I edit the scripts, work with our writers to do that. And then we hand them off to the artist. And then when I get them back, I create all the teaching materials for it. So I'll align it to standards, and then I'll come up with the discussion questions, the project ideas, the further pairings. So, if we're learning about Two-Spirit people, where else can I go to learn about Two-Spirit people? What projects can I do? One of the projects for this latest comic was looking at all of the laws that have been passed or proposed this year targeting LGBTQ plus and trans individuals, and coming up with an activism plan. Right. Another project was analyzing gender and gender roles, and how Two-Spirit people throughout history have broken gender roles. And then what are some ingrained gender roles that we have in our society, and how can we maybe be a little bit more analytical about that, and then create an art piece about it. Right. So coming up with those projects is so much fun. But every month when we get to release one of these, and I know a teacher is going to be able to use it in their classroom, and we're educating about, important topics. Maybe we're putting a well-known subject through a new lens. Those are all things that I love.
Now that was, those are one. And just the fact that you're having individuals who are actually dealing with the experiences, writing these pieces. I think that's
absolutely. We would not be doing our job of, celebrating diversity and building community if we weren't having input or writing from, the folks that we're telling stories about. We have an upcoming issue about video game accessibility in video games, which I actually wrote myself. Now, I am not a member of the disabled community. I'm a huge video game nerd, and so I follow the news and everything, which is why I know a little bit about these things. So in the writing of it, I made sure that we were in touch with not only a couple of my friends that use disability settings within video games, accessibility settings within video games. Yes. But also there's a local theater here in Denver, the Family Theater with a PHAMILY. Absolutely check them out. They are specifically for disabled performers and production people, right? So a theater troupe specifically for the disability community. And so I had some of our contacts there, read over our work and make sure that we are speaking accurately, that we're speaking sensitively. Nice. So that's definitely a really big concern, is to accurately represent and authentically represent the stories that we're trying to tell.
Beautiful. So, Matt, I went over the little introduction, right? But I want you to kind of explain, you went over the educational background a bit with teaching. You mentioned you hit a point where you were done with education. What do you think led to that?
So I want to be clear. This is my opinion. This is not anybody else's opinion. This is Matt Slayter's opinion right here.
Let's go.
I left teaching feeling that good teaching is unsustainable. Because the amount of work and hours that it takes to be a good teacher. I think being a mediocre teacher is a little more sustainable, but mediocre teachers produce mediocre students, right? There's so much data out there about even just 1 year of a bad teacher and how that can totally take someone's educational route off course, right? So I worked for two very different environments, one in which it was No Excuses charter school in New York City between 2012 and 2014. And if you want to know more about what those schools are about, you can look them up. And I went from there going from there to teaching gifted and talented in Fort Worth, where I was seeing 300 students a week at 4 different schools. I was supposed to be doing enrichment. And so I had a Monday school, a Tuesday school, a Wednesday school, and a Thursday school. And so on Monday, I would see first grade, then second, then third, fourth, fifth, go to the next school the next day, do the whole thing over again. My budget was $300 a year. and they want me to do enrichment. And now I had the opportunity to use a couple cool things that belong to the district, like some Lego robots and things like that. But for the most part, it was popsicle sticks and, pipe cleaners.
It's not much for $300. You guys, with inflation,
no, 300 students, $300 a year, right? And so it literally, our supply delivery day was just like, all right, tape, construction paper, popsicle sticks, right? How are you supposed to do enrichment like that? How are you supposed to discover kids' loves and passions like that? And it takes really creative and dedicated teaching. And so I feel like in my time there, I did the best that I could. But after 6 years, I was just kind of like, personally, I don't want to be teaching forever, but like, I feel good about the time that I spent, but it was just my time to do something else.
That's the best way.
And again, I didn't know that this existed at that time. And when I saw the opportunity to fix or at least help alleviate some of these problems for teachers and give them the tools that they need to do what they want to be doing, I had to jump on that.
No, I think who better, right, than you? Because thinking about it. Yeah, when you think about it, though, you yourself being on that opposite side, you've seen, you've been there in the seat of teachers, right? And now you're on another side of it, so you can relate to them. And a lot of times, from my understanding, if you're a teacher, and like you said, if you're mediocre, you probably, hey, as long as I'm not being talked to, I'm not bothering anybody and no complaints, good job, right? But that's not quality. You kind of want to go a step above. I want to be able to, hey, I thought of something new and, we might need a budget for it, but I thought of a way to make it affordable. Could we do it? So that means you already proactively thought about it. You came up with a plan. You did everything before you come to them. And when you do things like that and they don't work out, time after time, they can be frustrating. So I totally understand.
And like I, at the time was, a single or, partnered person with no kids. Right. And so when I think about the teachers out there, so I want to be clear that when I say, when I talk about mediocre teachers, I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. I mean that so many teachers are set up to only be mediocre because they aren't given the time or tools to go above and beyond. And if they do that time and tools, they're coming out of the teacher's personal life rather than what the school is providing. Right. So, but it can be extremely frustrating and really discouraging. So I just hope that, and, we've gotten the evidence from the teachers that we've worked with that have used our resources time and time again.
Beautiful.
That their students respond differently to this. It engages them more.
Nice.
Our teachers have learned more about their students' passions through what we do. So yeah, it is very encouraging to hear. And so I love nothing more than getting to talk to a teacher for the first time and be like, hey, I have a bunch of free, and not just free, high quality free stuff for you. Like,
it's not popsicle sticks, okay?
Good stuff. Well, there's lots of,
might be a couple with
quality of teaching content out there.
No,
and that's not to say that our content is brilliant, because there's certainly room for improvement. I mean, with the teaching guides that we do with our colorful history comics, I wish I had the capacity to give away ready to go worksheets with those, and so it's one of those things that, like, when we have the budget, when we have the capacity, there are things that I know we can do to improve also, to make things even better for the teachers. But I still got high quality stuff for you, and it's all free.
I love that, man. Now, could you describe what Pop Culture Classroom has in plan for Fan Expo Denver? Because you talked about it earlier, the stuff leading up. So you mentioned escape rooms earlier, but I've seen some of the schedule. Woo! So can you go ahead and just give us some of the things that you guys have planned?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do a lot of Pop Culture Classroom, and Fan Expo is definitely the biggest thing that we do. We work for months to put this on. So to start out, we've got, like I said, a 9,000 square foot kids lab on the show floor. So this year we're right near the community zone. I think some of the vendors we're close to. We're right across from the celebrities. So you're going to see us. There's a big sign up top. Come say hi. So 9,000 square feet, where, like I said, we've got this fantasy. So we've got our kind of theme for the year is the Explorers Guild. So one part of the Explorers Guild, you're going to go see our friends from the downtown aquarium from a cool organization called Trackers Earth from the Botanic Garden, or excuse me, not the Botanic Gardens, the Butterfly Pavilion and Aurora Parks and Rec. And they're going to be teaching you all about different biomes. What do you find in a plains biome? What do you find in an ocean biome, right? And then from there, you go into our fantasy map making station where you're given a piece of paper and dried beans. I don't know if you've seen this activity online, but it's
I have not.
You pour out like pasta or rice or beans or something like that, and that makes organic shapes that then you can trace around, and that's what gives you your land masses and your ocean forms for your fantasy map, right? So then, using what they've just learned, they're going to think about, okay, what biomes are going to be in my fantasy world? How can I fantasify them? We've got watercolor markers. We're putting wax seals on them. They're going to wrap it up, take it to go, right? And then the other part of the Explorers Guild is our quest called the Epic Portal Pursuit. And so again, this is a hybrid role-playing game / puzzle room that we have built from the ground up, where you will choose a character. Your character has special abilities, and you will go through 3 5-minute puzzle rooms, essentially. Not only you're trying to solve the main puzzle, but you're also trying to discover your character's abilities, right? You start by researching in the old mystical library, then you got to power up a hot air balloon, and then you're going to activate the portal to a magical realm.
Are you sure this is for kids?
We've got NPCs.
I want to like this.
Oh, I'm telling you. So I've designed all these puzzles to, it is definitely meant for adults and kids to work together, but 8 to 10-year-olds can solve these puzzles. All right.
Nice.
6 to 7 might need a little help, but 8 to 10-year-olds should be able to solve these puzzles, right? So we've got that. And then, of course, like I said, we've got all kinds of friends. Level 7 Games from here in Denver is going to have a playable video game museum. School of Rock Boulder is going to have an instrument petting zoo that you can go to. You can volunteer at the booth. History Colorado is going to be there. And to top it all off, we have a stage, and the stage is going to have workshops and things going all weekend long. Pending maybe 1 or 2 celebrity guests coming that we'll have on our stage doing different things.
Nice.
So, and that's just the kids lab. Then on Friday, or actually all weekend long, downstairs we have a panel room where, again, we've kind of recruited our friends and things. It's our educational panel room. So that's where the adult-facing education stuff happens, right?
Got it.
We're giving our own panels. So like on Sunday, I'll be giving a session all about parenting and teaching tips from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So what can that game teach us through its design that we can use to help teach kids skills and things? So there's going to be educational sessions like that. School of Mines is giving sessions. History Colorado is giving sessions. Deck 9 Games, the creators of Life is Strange, True Colors. They're doing a panel in the kids lab for us on Friday about motion capture, and then they're doing how to create games on Sunday. All kinds of cool stuff going on in that room. And then Friday, that is when we bring in all the educators for free. The first part of that day is their professional development. And then we actually also we're bringing in 250 middle and high school kids for free to talk about careers in pop culture and learn about different careers in pop culture that they can have. So that's happening on Friday also. So when I say I've still got a lot to do, I've got some presentations to make low key. It's gonna be a kick-ass weekend.
Man, you know what? I was planning to go around, and go around other places. I don't know, man. You made this sound like it's a one-stop shop. It's
And the best part, I forgot. So in the kids lab, for when you bring the kiddos, if they complete 6 or more activities, they get a prize. 10 or more activities gets them a big prize. So they've got a little passport. They'll go around every booth they go to. They'll get it stamped. And we got some cool prizes. They can win an Explorers Guild member pin that we have custom made for this. Some art supplies from Meningers, who's sponsoring our Educators Day and our map making area. And then the big prize, they actually get a bound copy of our comics, all of our comics from 2022. So
that is and I would say my daughter is one of those that when you get her in there, and I'm telling you, you're going to have her for a little bit. She's not going to want to leave. I can tell. And especially what I love about this is that
she's not alone.
Yeah, she's not alone. Learning is at the core as well, and that's kind of the big thing because, I could take, my daughter to, let's say, Urban Air or Jump Zone, Sky Zone, one of those places, right? You go, hey, it's great. She gets exercise, so I do like to do physical activities, but it doesn't provide anything educational. I love the combining pop culture with almost everything. I mean, and to be honest, I started this introduction with educational innovator. I think I was right, okay? Because literally, I'm hearing so much innovation with the different ideas that you have. And me, as a, I was a gamer at heart all my life. I've always been a gamer. So hearing anything where you can teach with games. You mentioned Pokemon, which is a game I played as well. And you're right, it does not talk. So then when you said that, I started thinking, well, what if someone has a problem writing? There's games with tablets and writing and drawing and, so then
do you know about Twine?
I do not.
So twinery.org is a browser-based system where you can create your own, choose your own adventure games. So not only are you learning a little bit of like very light HTML to figure out the part about this passage goes here, but you can be writing just an adventure that someone else can play as a text adventure, or like writing for a D&D campaign or a video game story, because you can do the branching paths, right? And kind of plan it all out. So yeah, that's a way you can do writing. So one more program I have to brag about. We have been given grant funding by a local organization, Redline Contemporary Art Museum. They awarded us what's called the Arts and Society grant, and so about $25,000. And are you familiar with Dreams on the PlayStation?
Yes, I am.
So we are going to be taking Dreams into a high school. It is going to be a daily class. Originally, it was going to be the American Indian Academy of Denver, but they are unfortunately shutting down at the end of this year. So we're looking for a new partner. But a partner that has a distinct voice with their students, right, and a distinct perspective, because we are going to be teaching them how to create a pro-social narrative-based video game, and they'll be creating that in Dreams through their kind of social lens, their social perspective about an issue that they see in their everyday life. So we're going to start out by teaching a little bit about narrative games, right, and then teaching the tools of Dreams, which are incredibly complex. They go deep. Let's put it that way. I was going to say, they go very deep. And so getting them introduced to that, and then giving them a number of weeks to essentially create their own game about a pro-social issue that they want to address. So we're very lucky to have that grant funding, because that means I get to buy like 10 PlayStations, 10 monitors, games to support this, right? But like, that's one way that we're using, finding your narrative voice, right? Through game creation.
I agree. Now, there was one thing I did see. I think it was an Indiegogo campaign that you guys were raising. I think it was $5,000. Can we? Yeah. Yes. I'm glad that I mentioned. I thought about that, and right now, I think it was at like 1,700 or so, but it's still quite a bit. And I seen it just right before it came on, so I'm like, I'm gonna get my name on there. Okay, so you're gonna see me right after this. But can you fill us in some information on that?
Absolutely. So essentially, I joined the organization in 2018, and since then we have not had the funding to print our comics. They've been online only, which is great because they're free and you can download them and distribute them as you want, right? But lots of places want printed issues. So just today, actually, these got delivered, and this is our sample print for the Indiegogo campaign. So what the Indiegogo campaign is going to fund 1,000 copies of our 2022 collected edition. So that's what this is. It has all of our comics from 2022. So 10 4-page comics. It has a sample of the teaching guide that you can get online. But we, at the convention, will be distributing these to our teachers. We'll be distributing, this is the big prize. So if you do the 10 or more activities in the Kids Lab, you get to take one of these home. But that Indiegogo campaign and that funding is going to allow us to distribute even more of them to local schools, local libraries, kids in our workshops, and really just get these around so that, again, people that don't know about us still can learn some things. This issue includes Jerry Lawson and the Channel F. I'm a little partial to that one because I wrote it. But talking about the creation of the first video game cartridge in the 70s by Jerry Lawson, the creation of Dungeons and Dragons, Cesar Chavez. There's an issue about climate change, the Great Depression, immigration and citizenship, Sal Castro and the East LA walkouts. That one was actually written by local high school students. The history of Halloween, how inflation works, and the Boston Tea Party. So that Indiegogo campaign, if you fund us, I believe it's $20 or more, you get your own copy of this. And like I said, we're printing 1,000 copies to be able to distribute to schools and libraries.
Man, that is beautiful. And I could say I'm going to be spreading that as far as possible, because I think those books do need to be in more school. how can you complain about having more material? And that's one
Agree.
thing.
And this is such unique material. It is teaching very varied concepts in really cool ways. The art so every issue is drawn by a different artist in here. Every issue is written by a different author or a different writer. So you're getting varied perspectives, right? But it was very exciting to get this today and get to see it. So we're hoping that we can use the momentum of Fan Expo. We're going to have little inserts in each one of these that we give out this week, that if you want to fund more of these, it has the Indiegogo link and the QR code.
I'll be making sure to put that on there. Right? I want as many people on my channel to donate as well, man. Please do it for me. All right.
Yeah. And you can find more info about that at popcultureclassroom.org.
Yes. Nice plug. Now, how can people, whether they're, educators, students, someone stopping by, fans, how could they get involved? If someone says, hey, kind of similar, how you roll by and seen the sign, right? And someone says, yo, I'm loving what you're doing. How could I get involved? How does that typically go?
The easiest way is through our volunteering portal on our website. Now, that is mostly for local folk here in the Denver area, because it does mostly involve volunteering at events, right? So things like Fan Expo, we could not do the Kids Lab and Educators Day and all the things we do without our incredible volunteers, many of whom have been volunteering with us for years. So a huge shout out to them. But that's one way, is you can volunteer. And as we build capacity, we are, looking for other, maybe slightly more remote volunteer roles, whether that is having to do with creating worksheets or video editing, things like that. Those services are always much appreciated. So if you write us on our website and you say, hey, I got a skill and I'd like to use it for you, we will do our best to figure out if it's in the cards at the moment or if it's something we need to think about a couple years down the line once we've, kind of expanded and gotten a little more capacity on our end. So definitely our volunteering portal, let us know what your skills are. Let us know how you would like to help us, and we'll figure out if there's a way for you to do that.
Man, beautiful. And I'm glad, because, there is a lot of people that see things like this, and like you did, you stopped and you read the sign. And, I've been there as well, where you feel like fate, and it's something that, like, why did I drive down this street at this time? Or why did I look this way? And it's true. It seems like things happen for a reason. And, God put that in front of you for a specific reason, said, hey, you're going to look at this sign. Okay. And beautiful, man. I love to hear it. So now I got two more. This is the last two. Okay. And I actually skipped. I got so many, but you answered them so well that I couldn't even ask the question.
I'm sorry.
Me too. So we're both the same way. All right. So could you share a personal favorite moment from Pop Culture Classroom?
Oh man, a personal favorite moment.
Yeah, just for you, it was like, man, that was a great moment.
I've got a couple, and there are so many of them, but the ones that are up at the top for me, being the mega nerd that I am, last year I got to interview Troy Baker on the Kids Lab stage, as well as Patricia Somerset, who's the voice of Princess Zelda. And then for our high school kids, we had both of the protagonists from the Red Dead games. So we had Arthur Morgan and John Marston, the sweetest gentleman. Maybe have a big crush on Roger Clark, but so that was amazing. Oh God, that's so nice, that accent. But the best one was we did actually Reno Pop Culture Con back in the day, which is a whole nother story. But we had Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario, playing Mario Kart on our stage with a bunch of kids. And not only is he the sweetest dude, he's doing all the voices while he's playing Mario Kart with the kids. I had the honor of teaching him the controls for Mario Kart on the Switch. He'd played it before, so like he had done that. He just hadn't played it on the Switch.
So he didn't know the rules.
Getting to teach the voice of Mario how to play Mario Kart was a pretty wild and surreal experience. I got him to sign my Switch in Sharpie, but by the time I got home on the plane, half of it had rubbed off in my Switch case. I was so sad. And then I had to get my Switch repaired, and Nintendo took it from me.
Oh, no! And believe me, I would have been so sad. Nintendo, yes, they do. Like, hey, they don't give you the original one.
I know, but give me the broken one, please. It's in the middle. But I have the photos, so that's what matters. So personally, I mean, you've heard my passion for the educational bits, but those are some highlights that I cannot ignore.
No, I'm not gonna lie, that's a highlight. I didn't even go through it, and I felt it. You know, I felt it. Like, it's just like, like I'm showing him the buttons, like this is me.
Right. Yeah.
Goodness. Oh, okay. So, what advice do you have for any educators who are hesitant to incorporate pop culture into their classrooms? Because you have some people who may be, used to, I don't want to say stagnant or something, but they're used to a routine. They feel like their routine gets results. But I always feel like there is always room for improvement. So how do you convince someone, or what do you say? What advice do you give them to say, hey, this might be a good idea? And that's why I saved that one for last too, by the way.
I would certainly ask them what their hesitancy is. And I've heard lots of things in the past, anything from, I don't have that kind of freedom in what I teach, to, I'm not into pop culture. And I think that's the biggest one is a lot of teachers come to me and they're like, I don't watch Marvel movies. I don't play video games, which is fine, but they're nerdy about something. We always open our PDs with like, what are you nerdy about? And a lot of them are like, right now I'm nerding out about my grandkid, raising my grandkid, or, watching my grandkid. Right now I'm nerding out about plants, right? So they're nerdy about something. So they understand that, passion and fire. And so like, what draws you to that? And then, okay, let's talk about why our students are drawn to these things and some of those connecting elements that they can have. And I think, so most of the resistance is there. It's the trepidation because they don't play the games or watch the movies or things. And I would say we've got lots of recommendations for you and lots of jumping off points as far as resources go. So definitely try that. But also, you should at least know what your kids like, right? If you're not making those connections with your kids, you should at least know what they like. And
agree.
You can look up a YouTube video, right? You can watch a trailer for the movie that they're excited about. Put in the minimal effort, right? To find, and then find those connection points, right? Oh, why do you like this? Okay, let's watch this trailer. Why do you like this? What draws you to it? Okay, and then from there you can have talks about author intent. You can have talks about design. You can have talks about all kinds of things. Oh, well, this connects to this story is actually the hero's journey, right? Or this connects to this literary principle that we're talking about right now. And watch your kids' eyes light up, right? When you validate what they love and you see their eyes light up, that's and if after you do that, you still don't want to use pop culture in your classroom, I can't help you, So that would be my suggestion, right? And then from there, like I said, we got lots of resources. We got PD for you. We got all kinds of ways for you to jump in.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. A lot of teachers seem to, I think, just like, hey, I'm not into pop culture. I'm just not into it. But you're right. You should at least know what the students like. And a lot of teachers do. You hear students talk about it, right, in class all the time, or different games, whether it's TV shows, music, and all these different things. And you're right. They all have different layers. So if you're music, you're watching a music video, you have directors, you have producers, you have themes, you have, all these different things. And they still all pertain to that same music video that they love. So once you put the learning side to that, you're right. They're seeing it as, hey, I'm part of a music video versus I learned something. And I think that is like vital. I mean, man, gosh. So,
and now, just to be clear, I think the ones that are resistant, 20% of the population, right? And again, it really is because they just don't watch the movies or play the games or whatever, which again, do you. But most people we talk to, it's more about, I want to, and I just don't have the time to come up with the lesson plan or the resources to turn this into a lesson, right? And so again, us pointing them in those directions, I think that's what they're looking for.
Now, Matt, that was my last question. I had more questions, but you literally answered. Like, I'm trying to look through questions and like I had, will there be any interactive sessions or workshops? Hey, you answered 100%. That, right?
The majority of the things on the Kids Lab stage will be interactive. So we got clipboards, we got paper, we're doing a pixel art drawing tutorial. We're doing tips on being a good dungeon master, world building. So it's going to involve, if you come sit in front of the Kids Lab stage, be ready to do something, right?
Yeah, put your hands on something. I see it. Now, Matt, that was all the questions I have. I want to, again, thank you for taking this time.
Oh, you're welcome.
I am definitely going to be there with my daughter. You'll see my wife as well. And so your husband, will your husband be attending?
Well, on Sunday, so he's a carpenter for the Denver Center of Performing Arts. So he
Oh,
actually
okay.
built
Yeah. They
he
need
built a
carpenters.
lot of the things. Yes, right. He built a lot of the elements of the puzzle room. It's good to know people.
Mm.
So you'll see his work there, and then I think he'll be there on Sunday. My parents too. My parents are getting to come for the first time and see me do what I do. So that's exciting.
It's exciting, and I'm not gonna lie, carpenter. Oh man, I'm just like, why can't I get, carpenter? I will say, oh, this happens, this. Hey, I take care of all of it. It's just like, hands up. I'm the carpenter here, and trust me, I ain't the carpenter. All right. But man, I really do look forward to see. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
Just that, I've mentioned a lot of things we're doing for free. The Kids Lab at Fan Expo is free. All of our PD is free. A lot of our resources are free, but it is not cost. There is a cost there. So if you want to help us out, I mentioned volunteering earlier. Donating is also a huge way to help us out. And you can find that on our website. If you just go to popcultureclassroom.org, and then there's a little drop down for get involved, and you can donate there. You can do one of our predetermined amounts, or you can choose your own amount. That really, really goes a long way. And that would be to our general fund. And then if you, instead of, say you don't want to fund everything we do, you just want to fund our cool comics, go link to our Indiegogo. You can go fund that. And so I think that's the main thing, is just letting people know that unfortunately there is a cost to all of this. And for us to be able to continue providing these services, any donations, any help are greatly appreciated.
Yes, and I will make sure, to clip it right there. Man, I'm gonna just clip it. We don't need to hear nothing else. Donations are much, and I understand that, because truthfully, that's what kind of makes things roll, right? The more donations come in, the more things that you guys could do. And, as somebody who hasn't been on the education side, right, and listening to you, I feel more than comfortable to say, hey, I would donate to Pop Culture Classroom and this everything they stand for, because I feel comfortable with Matt. Things that Matt explained, they have actual educational innovators. I'm gonna just call you that, okay? They got educational innovators there. And if I was donating money, I'm not gonna lie, it would be very easy to donate for Pop Culture Classroom. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And then once you come see us and spend 3 hours with us in the Kids Lab,
might donate some
more.
You'll
be like, there you go. That's right.
I'm with you there. So Matt, other than that, man, we're gonna go ahead and end it. I want to thank everybody who's watching, and I also have this on the podcast who's listening back. Yes, thank them. Like, subscribe, follow Pop Culture Classroom, and outside of that,
Instagram. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So come follow us there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that was gonna be my next thing. What other places can they find? So that's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
I would say so. Those and our email list. Those are the best ways. The email list, honestly, it sounds a little old school, but you are not going to miss a thing that we put out. Every time we put out a new comic and new resource, that's a great way to do it. But of course, if you subscribe to us on Instagram, Facebook, you'll find that all too.
Yeah, I used to think email lists were bad, and I got older and I realized how amazing they really are. So
yeah, right.
I'm like, wow,
that's how you know. That's how you know you're getting old.
So anyway, Matt, I appreciate the time. You enjoy, sir.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick.